Hello, and welcome back to our podcast, Domestic Workers Organizing for Legal Change in Asia. Today, in our fourth episode, we are in Nepal. In 2017, domestic workers were included in two major pieces of legislation, the Labour Act and the Social Security Act. But implementation has been very slow. Convincing municipalities to invest resources in the programs needed to register domestic workers and expand social security coverage to them is an ongoing struggle. Today, we have with us Gyanu Kshatri, who is the General Secretary of the Home-Based Workers Union in Nepal. The union is also part of GFOND, which is the General Federation of Nepalese Trade Unions. Gyanu talks about the challenges they are facing every day while organizing to implement the law and shares her winning argument that domestic work is essential work. Thank you, Gyanu, for agreeing to be recorded for the podcast. So, to start off with, could you tell us a bit more about your union, how it started, how were you involved?
Yeah, before involving in the union, I was working on the my national federation called GFOND, and that is General Federation of Nepalese Trade Union. And I was working as a office secretary, and I have looked the admin work, but as well as I was working with the home-based workers and volunteers workers and beautician workers and domestic workers unions people also. So my leaders request me and ask give me time for a week to take the decision. Either I will go as a bureaucrat or I have to go to the union leader. So he gave me, my ex-president give me the date to take the decision for a week. Meantime, it is very difficult to me to decide because for me it's very difficult in financial sector also. If I left the bureaucrat office, then I may not get the salary and allowances. So how do I conduct my family and my finance? So I was very difficult situation. How can I take the decision? But I have keen interested on working with the workers union also. So at last but not least, I take the decision, a strong decision of my life, and I try to involve in the union, and they offer me to be the treasurer, finance secretary in the union. Meantime, the union was also more like home-based workers, domestic workers in a same union. So to raise the big boys, so we are merged in 2013. So from that day, I started working formally in the union. Beside that, when I was in office secretary of the GFON, I was working as a volunteer and make the members of the union, and I conducted the meeting and management, all things. But later on, all accountability and responsibility is given to me because my president thought that I have a leadership powers. So I can lead in the union. So I don't know, I have that much power, but now I realized how they are seeing the vision on me. And I also, by working and working, I realized that I can lead and deal with the unions peoples, and still it I am working. This is the true that my union leader trust me and give me this responsibility.
So, you were saying that the union was formed in 2013. So, could you tell more for our listeners, like what is the union like? What kind of workers are there?
Yeah, especially we have two category of the workers. One is the home-based workers, and in other is the domestic worker. Inside the domestic worker, there are many percentage of the workers are leave out domestic worker. Few are is the leave in domestic worker, because leave in domestic worker, to organize leave in domestic worker is the very very challenges and very 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 big. Yeah, very difficult.
Okay. Okay. And so I know that like there was a new law that came in 2017 for the domestic workers. So could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, we are doing the since 2002. We are demanding and doing the lobbying and advocacy for the regarding the social protection of the domestic workers and as well as home based workers. But there is, maybe we are the first union and first national federation GFund who raised the voice of the social security protection and as well as labor law also, because we really still we are demanding that labor law, domestic workers should be endorsed with a different policy and sub law. But fortunately they are able to endorse and enroll our domestic workers into the labor act in 2000. That is Nepali date is 2074, meaning just before 6 years. And then later now, social security act also, near that labor act, it is developed, but it is not implement, it implement after 2 years. But that is only for the formal workers, not for the informal workers, not for the domestic workers. But recently, we are again advocacy and demanded, then now the social security fund have developed the procedures for the informal workers, and which was launched before 2 months, 2 month with the inauguration by the our recent president no, recent ministry
Okay.
also implement also. But it is not implement by all municipality and not implement by all local government, still not. Somehow two or three, only two municipalities implementing and announcing that social security protection and registration should be started. They announced this one, but still the work is doing very very slowly.
Okay. So through this law, like they brought in that domestic workers should be registered, they should be given social security. And what about minimum wages?
Yeah, from social security, they endorse domestic worker also included in the informal workers. In the law, they mention only informal workers, because domestic worker already include the informal workers. They did not directly say that domestic workers, but in labor law for the minimum wages case and for labor act, they separate write the domestic worker in the act number 838 806 law 806 886 only. So for that minimum wages for the living worker, they said that there should be the different one, because they should deducted foods, morning and evening lunch, breakfast, and somehow they send the worker in the school also for the class that studying fee also, charge school fee also they have deducted, and then rest they will give. But for the part time and leave out workers, I think they will get the more than minimum wages, because now minimum wages is the 2000. I think per hour they get the 77, but per hour if they finish to wash the clothes, they will get the 1000 Nepali rupees. So it is the best wages than the minimum wages, no?
Okay. Okay. And when you were bringing in this law, like what were the challenges you had faced while advocating with the government?
Yeah, first, I have to tell you honestly that when we went to the government, local government, they are really unknown about the domestic worker. They first time they told me, "Do you think domestic workers is a workers?" Like this way, they are surprising like this boy. So I told, if domestic worker is not counted as a decent work, and how can you go to the work in the outside, and how can you survive your family if domestic worker not came into your room, into your home? I told, I asked them the questions, no, like this way. And yeah, before they did not realize domestic work as a worker, but recently, slowly, government, local representative, and central government and ministry staff of the labor ministry, they also realize now domestic worker is worker, because nowadays if there is the child, the people cannot go to the job, so they have to keep the domestic worker in the home for child care. And nowadays in our country, most of the workers are migrating for the finance settlement. So there is the old father and mother, so old
Mm.
age care center is also very required. So nowadays now care worker is very necessary, and somehow they 3 month they give the some orientation class and give some certificate, and then our domestic worker can get the job after taking the orientation of that caregiver. So now, before, it's very difficult. Even the domestic worker also don't want to recognize their work, that if they work as a domestic worker, they get the monies. From that money they are taking the food. This also they did not realize. They are always lies that they went to the friend's home, they
Mm.
went to another market, but in the real sense, they are working in the house. But they did not want to tell them that they are a domestic worker. So in this is very challenges work. Only if they did not get the wages, and if they are harassment, then they will source and come to the union. Otherwise they did not want to come in the union, and they always want to hide their position and post of the job. So nowadays, it's, and another thing is that if the domestic worker want to know that I am a domestic worker and I work here, but their husband, their family don't want to highlight that woman is the domestic worker. This is also very great challenges for us to
Okay.
unionize the domestic worker in a scatter place. So from the government side also, from the employer side also, it is very challenges, because they did not realize that that is the work. Domestic
Mm.
worker work, the work. So this is the big challenges self.
How did you convince the government, like when they said, like, we don't think domestic worker is not worker? How did you then convince them?
Yeah, this is, I have a good example that one of the secretary of the labor ministry, they call us in a year when there is the discussion of the ratification of ILO Convention 189. Why we cannot ratify? That's they call us for a meeting. At the moment, he is telling me that, sister, you told that domestic workers should be give this much minimum wages, this much facility, social protection, and we have on just this much money. Every money if we give to the domestic worker, how can we survive our household? How can we give the our baby in the school's fee and everything like this? He say, and I told, no, you are wrong. We did not demand all your salary to provide the domestic workers. Just that is the minimum percent, just 1% of his salary or her salary will be taken by the domestic worker. And I ask you, brother, if your domestic worker not come to your house, took your mother father, old mother father and your baby, do you think you and your wife will go to the outside to earn the money to get the income? This you can come here to work and to earn the money because of the domestic worker, not because
Mm.
of you, because domestic worker is working in your house and caring, looking, so that's why you are here with the free mind work and you get the salaries. But you know, domestic worker uh, self somewhere still they are scattered, they really still not want to say that they are a domestic worker. That is the main
Mm.
challenge.
So, how do you sort of organize domestic workers in your union?
Yeah, my experience and my other our unions colleagues experience is that we organize the members first friend to friend. That domestic worker bring the another domestic worker one way. Another way is the we find the domestic worker in the market in a time of the buying the vegetables time, breakfast, milk, bread. They came to the store to buy that one at that time because of the dress up, because of the domestic worker is quite different, and we already recognize the domestic worker being a leader. And another thing is we went to the school, government school, because domestic worker are always go to the school, government school, and we connection with the principal of the school, government school. And another one is the now we have our general federation of Nepal State Union GFUN have a seven province, and they have a office in the seven province. And from that office also they also help us, leader union other leader also help us to organize the new area and place. But after taking the training of ILO, we are now doing the another exercise like PRA, you know, PRA, rural
Participatory rural
appraisal,
appraisal.
rural appraisal method. We did the matrix and that is different tools like matrix and problem tree and social mapping, like this way. And for before mapping we take the help of the local government representative, because
Okay.
our GFUN Federation have a many members who are elected in the local government nowadays, and through them we went that area and municipality first and managed for the simple meeting with main workers, and then
Mm.
main workers they will bring the another workers. So we are doing the mapping, social mapping, matrix, problem tree, and we say that this is the your problem, this is your problem in the root and in the stream. Tell me what is the reason of your problem in the upper where there is the fruit side, that upside we will say that there is the solution. That's why this is the your solution is the unionize, so you have to come to the union. Like this way we will convince them, and then they came to the union and unionize. If we gathering 100 people, only 50 members will be organized. This is the
Okay.
true thing.
And how many domestic worker members do you have now?
More than 10,000. But this time we have a new, it is in our planning. I find that is the more home based worker is growing up nowadays.
Okay.
You know why? Because when they are retired from the job, they most of the women and men are working in the garments clothes, they bring to the garment and they bring to the home, and they are stitching and weaving and they are painting and so on, they are working.
So, coming back to the domestic workers, so you said like now there are minimum wages and social security for domestic workers. So how does the social security work? What is included and how you been trying to implement it?
Yeah, first still our domestic worker did not get the social security fund and they did not register it. First, we are advocacy and lobbying to the government, local government, because all authorize is given to the local government nowadays. So, local government, we are doing the interaction, orientation, meeting, etc. We did. Still, we are lobbying and advocacy to some new municipality. Especially, we work for three, four municipality. Among that, municipality, only one municipality started the registration of the domestic worker first. They did not
Okay.
say that domestic worker only. They announced for the informal workers registration. So each years they give their card, identity card, and each year they have to renew that card. And then for social security, they commitment us that within a 1 year they are first doing the pilot survey, and after that how can they provide the social security to them. So but they promise and commitment us they are starting from that.
Yeah. So that was my next question. You said the government doesn't have a social security fund. So how is it working? Like, does the worker have to contribute, the employer contributes, or is
Yeah,
just the government giving?
yeah, now the domestic work they had the procedure already announced that if the self-employed home workers and domestic workers they want to contribute minimum this much wages, this much contribution of some persons like mean 20%, 21% from their side and other side government should be given. But if in the case there is the employer are not ready and not convinced, but they can do themselves for their protection.
Okay.
So but union are agree, but a union is still lobbying that money should be given by the employer, or if employer not agree then government should be given that contributions. So that
Yeah.
things I will transfer you. But the government announced the procedures of the social protection contribution fund that they can involve their employer or they can demand for their local government. It is option.
Thank you so much, Gyanu, for sparing your time and sharing your experience in organizing and advocating for domestic workers' rights. It was really wonderful to listen to you and learn about the work from organizers like you, going door to door and worker to worker to actually mobilize domestic workers. You also highlighted something extremely important: the stigma associated with domestic work. Even though in Nepal, domestic workers now have legal protections, domestic work is still looked down upon by employers and sometimes workers themselves. We have a long way to go to change the way domestic work is looked at and to make sure that domestic work is recognized as valued and dignified work, just like any other work. Thank you all for listening. As always, we have linked some resources for those listeners who want to know more about Home-Based Workers Union in Nepal and the labor law. In our next episode, we will talk with Himaya from the Philippines to hear about her experiences in organizing and advocating for implementation of their law. Until then, it's goodbye from me.
A Sonologue production.